Hey, welcome back to another video. Thank you as always for tuning in. Today, I want to talk about something that separates the best sales professionals, the best entrepreneurs, the best closers from everybody else. And it leaves everybody thinking, why are these guys or girls always so successful? Why are these specific set of individuals always crushing their targets, crushing their personal goals? And they look like they're loving it. They look like they're actually enjoying what they're doing. They look like they're actually passionate about what they're doing, and they look like they're actually winning. And there is actually a secret behind that. There's a multi-layered mentality behind that I want to share with you today. And just before I get into what that secret is, I'd appreciate it if you like the video, comment your thoughts below, and also share this with somebody who would also benefit from getting this advice, whether they're in sales, they're an entrepreneur, they're in business. I'm sure they would also benefit from everything that I'm covering here. And I'm going to continue to bring you more content and videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So stay tuned for that. So let's get into it. What separates these high-performing sales professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, and just high performers in general in whatever space or field that they're in from everybody else is what I like to call the ownership mentality. So you might be thinking, what is that? What does the ownership mentality even mean? Ownership mentality in sales and in business means that this individual takes a high level of ownership, high level of responsibility. They act as if they own everything to do with that business, with their product, with their service, with their industry, and they have a high level of ownership, and therefore they actually perform at a higher level, and they win, and they crush their targets, and they crush their own personal goals. And as a result, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a cycle that feeds on itself. Because they're winning, because they're successful, they're also happy doing what they're doing. They're also passionate about doing what they're doing because, again, they're winning that game. If you're playing a game that you're not winning, chances are you're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to be passionate about it. You're not going to like it on a day-to-day basis. The reason these people are continuously winning and also look like they're loving it is because it's a cycle that feeds itself, and it all starts with that one thing: ownership mentality. Now, like I said, this is multi-layered. Ownership mentality has 3 different layers that I want to cover with you. So the first one is you take ownership for your product or your service that you're selling. So whatever business you're in, whatever business you're involved in, if it's your own business or you're a sales professional in some other company or business, the first layer is taking ownership for your own product or your service. At the end of the day, I've said this before, your prospects will always borrow your confidence. They will borrow your conviction. So you need to take that high level of ownership for your product or your service, which means if you're selling a product or service, you should have experienced that product or service yourself. You should have invested in it yourself. You should own it yourself so you can speak from firsthand experience, so you can really relay that experience and the pros and the cons and the features and the benefits and everything to that prospect from real firsthand experience. So you need to take that level of ownership and also speak on your product or service with a high level of conviction. The second level is you need to take ownership for your company, your business, your brand. Whether you're a sales professional working for a company or you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business, you need to take ownership for the company, for the brand, for the name, for what you represent. So you need to take high levels of ownership for that. You need to represent that. You need to do whatever it takes to paint the correct picture in your prospect's mind about your company, about your brand, about your business as a whole. And the third one is my personal favorite because I believe this one is really what separates the greats from everybody else, because most people don't even start to think about this, let alone do it. And that is taking ownership for your industry as a whole. So if you're in the fitness industry, you take ownership for the entire fitness industry as a whole. If you're in the auto industry, you take ownership for the entire auto industry as a whole. Whatever industry you're in, you take ownership for that industry as a whole. So when you're speaking to your prospects and you're handling objections or you're handling stalls or whatever it might be, whatever comes up in that scenario, you take full ownership for the industry. You act as if you actually own the entire industry and you can take responsibility for it. You can take ownership for it. And that way, that high degree of ownership translates. It comes across to your prospects and they'll understand you're somebody at such a high level of professionalism, integrity, ownership that they want to do business with because you're taking ownership for your product or service. You're taking ownership for your business and your brand. You're taking ownership for your industry as a whole, and you're relaying all of that to your prospect, as opposed to somebody that is just trying to sell a product, who doesn't care about their product or service, doesn't care about the company or the brand, and even puts the brand and the company down, which just looks terrible on you and the company, and doesn't really care for the industry, doesn't really want to be in that industry, and it shows. people aren't going to do business with people that demonstrate these negative qualities. People want to do business with somebody that, regardless of what industry that is, what company, what product or service, they represent it, they own it. They take full ownership for it. So that's the real differentiator. That's the difference between the top sales professionals, the top entrepreneurs, business owners, the top closers, the people that you might look up to who are constantly winning and also look like they love what they're doing. They look like they're passionate about their day-to-day. It's because they have a high degree of ownership and they take ownership for all three of the things I just mentioned. So as I always say, here's the good news and the bad news. They're both the same. It's that you now have this information. You now have this knowledge that you can apply. The bad news is the burden of knowledge, the burden of applying this is on your shoulders now because you know this information, you know this knowledge. You should start taking a high level of ownership, responsibility for your product and service, for your company and brand, and for your industry. And the good news is, of course, the same. You now have this knowledge so you can start to execute it. And I promise you, you're going to see results immediately in your interactions and communications with your prospects, in your targets, in your income. It's all going to change when you take this level of ownership. So that's my message for you today. It's absolutely crucial that you understand this and that you start to apply it in your sales career, in your business. And if you are a business owner or entrepreneur, you want to pass this on to your salespeople. You want to pass this on to your team. Everybody has to take a high level of ownership for the product and the service, for the company and the brand, and for the industry as a whole. When you start to do that, everything will change for you in a good way. And I can tell you that from personal experience and from all the people that I've worked with in sales and in business. On that note, I hope you got some real tangible value out of that. As always, make sure to like the video. It helps me out a lot. I would be grateful. And also make sure to comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, of course, and send this to somebody who you think would get value out of it. And everything said, I'll see you in the next video.